What's going on, everybody? My name is Danny Zachlin. Welcome to Second Take, a weekly video podcast where I discuss the newest releases on both streaming and in theaters. On today's episode, we'll be discussing some of the newest TV shows on some of your hottest streaming platforms. Let's get to it. All right, our first segment today is Cardio Theater. These are TV shows that you can get done in 20 to 25 minutes while doing some quick cardio at the gym. My recommendation for this week is Running Point, which is now streaming on Netflix. It comes from creator Mindy Kaling and starring Kate Hudson, Drew Tarver, Scott MacArthur, Brenda Song, Chet Hanks, and Justin Theroux. It's a dysfunctional family workplace comedy set in the world of professional basketball. Real quick and simple, this show is funny, it's romantic, and it gives you a little bit of an insight to the world of professional basketball, and those 10 episodes will get you done in real quick. Out on some of the biggest streaming platforms. This week, I'm going to be discussing Dope Thief, which is a new show streaming on Apple TV+. From executive producer Ridley Scott and writer Peter Craig comes Dope Thief, starring Brian Tyree Henry and Wagner Moura. It follows Manny and Ray, two lifelong friends who decide to go ahead and pose as DEA agents to rob low-level drug dealers in the Philadelphia drug scene. However, when they decide to go ahead and rob when they decide to go ahead and rob the wrong trap house, things get ugly. Let me just say, this show I was pretty excited for, mainly because of the fact that it has that very grim, gritty look into the drug underworld, especially in Philadelphia. And it comes from Ridley Scott and Peter Craig, who is the writer of The Town, for those who don't know. My biggest compliment to this show is how it blends humor with the action and really the portrayal of these characters. Kind of from the get-go, you really understand who these guys are. Wagner Moura plays Manny, and Brian Tyree Henry plays Ray. These are basically the guys you would meet at your local hometown bar who have never left your hometown, mainly due to either like a DWI or a short prison sentence. You kind of know that they're bad news, but they make money doing sketchy things on the side. And from the beginning of the episode, you get to learn a little bit more about each and every single one of them. Brian Tyree Henry comes from more of his father was in prison. He was raised in the foster system by his father's lady of the night, if you want to say, who is now experiencing some health issues where he has to raise $10,000 to go ahead and pay for her medical bills. Whereas his friend Manny, who's played by Wagner Moura, is a little bit more straight-laced. He's trying to start a family with his girlfriend, and he's really doing this deed of robbing low-level drug dealers as what he sees as a service to clean up the streets of Philadelphia from what he considers low-level scum who are dealing drugs on the street. The biggest issue the show faces is as the pilot progresses, the show only gets grittier and darker. However, there are some weirdly misplaced comedic elements towards the end of the episode, whereas there's a scene literally where at least 3 or 4 people die, and you're at your highest point of tension, and there's a huge reveal that comes out, and next thing you know, the character's just making jokes, and it just doesn't really fit in the whole sense of the scene, and you're kind of like, why are we going for this right now? Aside from that, the episode started off really strong, kind of lost me for a little bit, but came back and finished strong too. I'm really excited to see where they go with this series. The only issue, again, too, is that some of the elements of the plot were pretty predictable. About halfway through the pilot episode, I was like, oh, okay, so they're going to go ahead and I know the next house that they rob is going to be the wrong house, and there's going to be someone there that shouldn't be there. But they literally go ahead and get a guy who's an ex-convict, and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's going to fuck up the entire deal, and something's going to go wrong, and then it does. And you're like, I don't know why you decided to go ahead and allow that guy to help you out. If I could tell that before the series events even happens, I'm kind of wondering what they're really going to give us in store for this 8-episode series. All in all, though, I would give this a 7 out of 10 and really recommend it because I want to see where they go with the characters, and the performances are really spot on. It's on Apple TV Plus, and new episodes come out every Friday. And our final segment for today's episode is called Show Me the Emmy. This is the show that I know will definitely sweep during awards season. This week's pick is called Adolescence. It's streaming now on Netflix. It's a 4-part miniseries from creator Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham, who is also the star of the show. It follows the story of Jamie, a 13-year-old boy who was accused of a pretty heinous crime to one of his classmates, and his father, played by Stephen Graham, dealing with the ramifications of his actions. The biggest thing about this show is it really tackles some pretty strong subject matter. As the violence is not portrayed on screen or any real disturbing content, it is discussed heavily in themes of bullying, social media, sex and drugs amongst minors. And it really kind of shines a light on what adolescent kids are going through. I know when I grew up, I didn't have social media, or I didn't have that type of peer pressure from the online presence, which I can only imagine is a lot different nowadays, especially with bullying. But you kind of understand the nature of what they're trying to achieve here. The biggest thing about this show, though, is that it's filmed each episode in one single take. So the camera consistently moves throughout the entire episode. From the start of episode 1, while they raid Jamie's house, it just never stops. They show you the entire sequence of him being arrested, of him being processed, of him being placed into taken blood, of him meeting with the lawyer. They go through every single process that he goes through while being booked and detained into a prison. The other thing about this show that I thought was really remarkable is that since they don't really display any of the events on screen in terms of violence, they discuss it in ways where you can kind of feel for both parties. As much of the fact that it was a young girl in his class who was stabbed to death, we don't see the actual stabbing. However, we're told about it, and we're told about it from Jamie's perspective. And we're also told about it from the perspective of the classmates as well. And we can understand really maybe where things had went wrong. At one point, they kind of go into a slut-shaming moment, and then they go into a popularity moment, and then they go also and bring up bullying and social media and how some of the kids in the class didn't fit in, and they felt like they were outsiders, and they were constantly being picked on. And when they kind of go over these type of events, you really do feel for the characters, even though the events on screen are despicable. I have to say the show really wrapped up in such a grand dramatic fashion that I'm not a father, but I could really feel for Stephen Graham in the final episode, because they really tackle the family as well and show how it's affected them. And the parents saying, hey, did we go wrong as parents? Did we let our children be exposed to this level of violence? Could we have done something differently to stop this? And just how their lives are never going to be the same, and they are going to always have to live with the guilt of what their son has done. Again, it's a really groundbreaking show. It's only 4 episodes long, and they get through it. Because of that single camera shot, the show never stops. Even in scenes like episode 3 of just heavy dialogue that take place in one room, you kind of are really invested because the camera is just consistently moving around the table, and you're constantly saying, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, where are we going right now? So Adolescence is a really hot topic show, and I really think it's going to sweep this year at the Emmys. And before even everyone jumps on the train, I want you guys to check it out. 4 episodes. It's currently streaming on Netflix. All right, that's our show, everybody. Until next time, I'm Danny Zaglin. This is Second Take. I'll see you at the movies.